ladies and gentlemen, so we've had the weigh-in. You know, the respective fighters have laid out their stall and puffed out all their feathers and all of that sort of stuff. And now we're going to sort of take questions on residential and commercial and see what we have. So we'll start off with a couple of questions. We're going to start off with just a couple of things. If you're asking a question, you're on video, so it goes on the site for people to watch. Language and all that sort of stuff, I guess. Fallon, what's your question, sir?
It's a question, and it's about commercial lease to lease. So my knowledge of commercial leases is that normally landlords and certainly brokers, they want good covenants. So how do newbies, kind of people just coming into the market, offer a good covenant to a commercial landlord?
Basically, how did you convince the Westminster?
I mean, on that particular example, there was a covenant that they were looking for certain types of businesses. So, that property had certain covenants around it. So there were stipulations around that covenant. But when you look at commercial property, a covenant is really looking at reassurance, and it's ways of how you can provide reassurance. Okay, Grosvenor may be being a really big freeholder, so a little bit more difficult to convince. But that's an example. If I was to look at the cinema or the library building, that's probably a better example. Like I would with going to the bank, I prepare a financial model. I would convince the bank to lend me money on a particular project. In the same way, taking over a lease or if it's a long leasehold property. In fact, the Putney commercial property that I bought back in 2013, the developer was Barrett's. There were 3 developers on site, and I saw the empty shell. So it comes in what they call a shell and core, just concrete walls, concrete floor, concrete ceiling, everything's exposed. But I had certain things that I wanted to do with the building. So that lease had a number of uses, so I got my solicitor to go through the legal pack, because Barrett's are very big lawyers. They reviewed the legal pack. I asked my lawyer to look at certain conditions that I wanted to add into the lease, and I wanted to get, most importantly, permission from Barrett's that I could add a mezzanine level, rather than them saying that that's against the conditions of the lease, or coming back to me in 2 years' time and saying that you've added 40% floor space to that unit, therefore the price, we have a right to come in and demand 40% uplift on the price that we're asking. So, in short, it's having really good lawyers, but it's no different to residential property really. When you're running your business as a business, you employ commercial lawyers that look at commercial and residential property. So we don't use conveyances for residential property, we use commercial lawyers where there's something that's, where there's an opportunity to add value.
Of course, a lot more expensive as well, but that's another story. Barry, service accommodation, I think, attracted quite a few questions. Barry's got a question for Susannah.
Hello, Susannah. Thank you for your inspiring talk earlier on. I've just, after the talk, was thinking about whether we should talk or convert some of our flats into service accommodation to increase the return. Would that still come under Section 24? Would we sidestep Section 24 if we go for service apartments, please?
Good question. So first off, I would say, let's talk about the process of moving from being a resi landlord to a service accommodation landlord, and then talk about planning. So first off, I would say do one at a time, test it out. 90% of your money will come from booking.com. Don't start with booking.com because you don't want to screw up your reviews. Start with Airbnb because it's very much a user-friendly process. It gives you really clear highlights on how to get to suppo status. And basically, they've done all the thinking for you. These are the key attributes that you want to be as a service accommodation host. So 80% 5-star, you want to never say no to a person, etc., etc. There are 5 different criteria. Run Airbnb for 3 months and then switch on to booking.com. Use a channel manager who theoretically will allow your booking.com to automatically cancel out your Airbnb, etc. It happens 99% of the time. We had 2 double bookings last week. So, and that because we're changing, aren't we, Arthur, from, I can never say the word, ex-hotelier to Avivo, there you are. So I always go straight to Avivo because we've had, and what it was is a 30-second feedback loop that meant that 2 people booked on 2 different platforms and they double booked and we went, sugar. So practice first, because you need to move from the mindset of the dead ends have got the keys, good luck to them, which we all have, to the mindset of I need to be answering within 10 minutes, or somebody does, doesn't need to be you. I need to template everything, I need to give very high service level, and I need to look at my automation, so your Nest, your cameras, your automated and your key locks and things like that. Practice first, don't jump straight in, or you get kicked off the platform for 3 days, and that's a lesson in of itself, and we've had that. And then secondly, let's look at planning. So I can't remember the exact legal wording, but basically there were a couple of legal judgments which basically ended up saying it's on a case-by-case basis, but the general understanding, and certainly my understanding and my planning consultant's understanding, is that if you are still providing residential accommodation for people under 6 people and less, so we do 1-bed and 2-bed flats, but the 2-bed flat has 2 double bedrooms plus a sofa bed for another 2 people, so that's 6 people and less. You're still within the normal requirements and don't need to move planning. Where there have been a couple of test cases in planning is where people have bought like 9-bed houses and had major holiday let businesses effectively, and the neighbours have often objected and said, excuse me, you're not running a residential house housing people that are argued to be a collective group of people living as one household, and you're actually running a hotel business or holiday business, and you need to change your planning. So there's just have a good old look at Mr. Google, but typically, and I'm a generalist, not a specialist, all the advice I've had, because I've taken the advice, says if you're under 8 people, you're still residential and you don't need to change planning. Also, that's the conversation I've had with my local council.
Section 24.
Sorry, section 24. Sorry, I went offside. Well, there you go, a planning question for you, because that's another question. Sorry, section 24, yes, you can claim your mortgage interest relief. Isn't that nice?
Brilliant.
However, bear in mind that you've got an 83 grand VAT threshold, and after that you need to charge VAT. So be mindful of that, and you figure out the maths.
Thank you.
Yes. Sorry, I went sideways into
That was
that, but at least
interesting.
that answered that question.
Thank you.
Okay, where's Carly? Carly, just there. Yes. Your question.
Hi, I've got a question for Am regarding commercial. So when you're looking for your commercial rent-to-rent, what are you typically looking for in the lease in terms of the clauses or covenants to be able to do a rent-to-rent from commercial? And the other thing is it solely the office sector that you do a rent-to-rent on commercial?
Hi Carly, good question. To answer it really simply, I just get a copy of the lease and send it to my lawyer. Because, and I'm not evading the question, but it depends on what I want to do with a particular property. So if I see something on the high street, I mean, the example is the library building or the cinema. Whilst they're freehold buildings or the cinemas, there might be covenants on the property because the library obviously is a public service building. It's obviously got some fantastic architectural features. It's been in that town centre for many, many years. And, you know, you need a professional to really go through the pack. So you'll have covenants even on freehold properties. So if you're going back to an opportunity on the high street, and there are opportunities in the same town within parades, I would do exactly the same. I'd work out what I want to do with it initially, and then send that over to my lawyer to say, can these clauses be amended And you're talking about a sublet clause effectively, which is what you're saying. So you take on a long lease, but most commercial leases allow you to sublet. You often see them sublet as long as it's written into the original lease. Or you negotiate at the time of taking over a lease and saying that we want some flexibility. We're still responsible, but it's a bit like a rent to rent. When somebody takes over a residential rent to rent, the landlord or the landlady still wants their mortgage paid, regardless of whether or not rooms are empty or occupied. And you as, not you, but anybody who takes on that role of being a rent-to-rent specialist has to guarantee that rent. So, that's no different from my opinion.
And is it just the office sector that you do a rent to rent on?
No, I look at anything. I mean, particularly now as I'm seeing smaller units in high streets. Offices work great in cities and bigger towns, but it can be anything commercial. If there's no coffee shop on the parade, or as Ranjan said earlier, if there's no hairdresser on the parade, but people can't visualise, and often you've got to kind of stage it for them. So if you see that it needs to be a coffee shop, or there's an opportunity for a coffee shop, you might have to put a coffee machine in and get somebody to run it as a coffee shop so people can visualise. It's the same with staging residential property. People always come in, and if it's empty, they can't visualise how that space is flowing and structured. And you get higher rents once you put in the furniture. It's the same in commercial premises. That's why, the big developers sell units as shell and core, but we never rent them out as shell and core. We'll always create some appeal, because business users want a fully finished, their business is running their business, not getting a premises fit for business.
That's a very good point. I mean, one of the things we did a lot of, where we did 3 projects like this actually, where this is in the up till about 2016, when estate agencies were expanding all over the place. So we would take an empty shop unit and do it up as a trendy estate agent. Yeah, so complete with a wallpaper map of the local area, glass partitions, bench desks. Basically, if you can picture Foxtons, we'd spend £50,000, £60,000, or sometimes more, on a complete refurb, including furniture. So that all an estate agent had to do was put a sign above the door. Then we'd advertise that to let in magazines like The Negotiator. The Negotiator is a specialist magazine that goes to estate agencies, advertise in the Estates Gazette as well, in the classified, and advertise it as a going concern where an estate agent is just ready to move in. They move in their IT and their servers, put their sign on the door, put their logo on the wallpaper map with the "We Are Here" on, and that's it. They can start trading. And what happens is they pay more rent for it, because they haven't got to spend the capital expenditure to refurbish it. They are willing to spend 20 to 30% more rent in order to get that kitted out and start trading immediately. So there are lots of business areas where you can do the same sort of concepts. Very, very powerful. Sorry, I shouldn't be answering questions.
Do you think the referee is fair? Do I have an impartial referee?
No, I don't want to go on and talking about the residential space above. Then I'll be. That would really balance it out. But go on. Who else has got a question? Yes, Rizwan at the back.
Hi there. I have a couple of questions on commercial. I've got a commercial in an area of weak demand, and the tenant is trying to get out of the lease. And I've spoken to the local commercial agent, and they said we've got many other premises empty, so it's not going to be easy to get somebody. And I've tried, like you said, these Domino's and Papa John's and all these things, and they're not looking for any sites in the area. So what are my options? What can I do?
Please, you mean?
How does to remarket it?
Oh, right. Okay.
I think I don't know the location, but the area, if you've known it for a number of years, I guess the first thing I would do is look at the changing nature of the high street and what businesses are going, and potentially what businesses could come in. because existing businesses like, you mentioned a couple of fast food chains were going, there's lots of new tech startups, there's lots of young businesses that want, say, office space, or they want kind of live workspace, they're bringing their own laptop, but they want dedicated workspace. I can't speak specifically in terms of other retail opportunities, but I'd have a look at what mix of retail was on that high street previously when it was busy and bustling, and look at other busy high streets locally that are busy and bustling, and try and look at what that high street is missing.
Okay, I don't want to help the opposition because clearly Resi's going to win, but we may have a tiny little commercial thing that we do ourselves. Facebook is great, Gumtree is great, Princess Trust is great, your local enterprise organisation is great, your local federation of small business is great, your institute of directors is great, your Probus, your round, what are they called? Not the round table of people, you know what I mean? Go Chamber of Commerce, thank you. Go to every single and talk to every single local business network and have great photography and advertise it non-stop. Facebook is fantastic, and that's for Resi as well.
And actually, just to add to that, actually, it's actually an opportunity that is becoming empty, because you've got an opportunity to uplift the rent by transforming the unit into something that's more desirable. So I think it's great.
That's a very good point. The underlying themes are it's matching the tenant to the property. You mentioned the blue chips weren't interested. The blue chips are interested in a certain type of property in a certain type of location. So I would guess it's probably in a secondary location. Now, I'll tell you something, here's a tip. One of the best beneficiaries, the way secondary parades, otherwise secondary parades is a retail parade where you don't have high footfall. They've been given a shot in the arm by people like me who go around converting offices into residential space, because what those people have done is they've had a whole bunch of office tenants being thrown out of their offices and they're looking for somewhere more secure. So we have rented secondary parade shops to people who have been thrown out of offices because these evil developers have gone along and thrown them out and converted them into flats. Now the thing is, they're more attractive to them if you recognise that as a trend in your area and do them up in a nice way. So put in the air conditioning, putting a new shop front, putting some nice blinds in the window, some nice flooring, cat-fied it all up, turn it into an officey looking type of space, and then you'll find that it will attract tenants who are being thrown out of office blocks because they're not really care about footfall. Yeah, go on.
Sorry, I wanted to ask Suzanne, because I've also looked into potentially convert it into a resi, as you said, there is demand for housing in the area. But I've talked to several architects and they're saying it's classed as flood zone risk free and therefore not likely to get planning there. So I don't know whether you've encountered this sort of situation.
No, even though my office is right beside the river with very high tidal changes, no, I haven't. And so what I would be looking at is where else in that parade or that broader area has somebody converted this, and who was either the planning consultant or the architect, because you might want a planning consultant rather than an architect that was competent and able to get that across. In our area, which is Bristol, on our Bristol City Council, on the planning department website, they list 27 planning consultants they like best. Guess who I work with? One of those 27 people, because they've already basically listed them and said, these are architects and planning consultants that we work with. Which is quite interesting, isn't it? So I would definitely talk to a friend of the council, if you see what I mean.
Yeah. Okay. I think we're going to take one final question and we're going to wrap up, because I've just realised we're bang out of time. Go on. Give it.
Hi. Question for Susannah. Thank you. Hi there. Have you had any success in claiming capital allowances on your resi properties that you've turned into SA units and then run them for the sort of minimum amount of time?
That is a great question, and I know this sounds like a stalling answer. It's one our finance director is currently looking into, so the answer is no, not yet. I've probably left a load of money on the table, and we're now looking at that. But what he's doing is doing it himself. He's not having, you know, we get companies phoning us up all the time and they want to take a third of it. No thanks. So I've probably been a bit slow on that one.
Thank you.
But you can go back.
Yeah.
And,
So
yeah.
thanks for the kick up the bum. It is on our agenda.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
I think that's
Okay, brilliant. Well, that's been fantastic. Thank you, guys. Thank you.